You know, it's a question of how many chairs we can get. Only the chairs can hold the hearings. Not many of them have subpoena authority, so we're trying to work to find ones that have subpoena authority.
Okay, on this side. Where's the microphone? Just right next to you there.
I've got a two-part question. There have been, in recorded history, over 8,000 fiat paper currencies, and all of them have failed. And, you know, of course, the Fed is currently in charge of ours for almost 100 years. And they've debauched our currency to the rate of about 96%. And I like your analogy of the melamine in the baby formula. I liken that to Federal Reserve notes, whereas mother's milk would be likened to a hard currency. And my question is, what is your opinion of a hard currency versus the current system where our birth certificates are monetized, which is where human capital comes from, which is where the term in war collateral damage comes from? And my second question would be, what is your opinion of H.R. 1207, which is Ron Paul's bill to audit the Fed?
To answer the second question first, I'm one of the academics at the top of the effort to get signatories on the Paul bill. So the first one, I obviously in this setting I can't do very lengthy, but I'm not in favor of a gold standard. Gold standards produce even more severe economic crises, and they make it very hard to recover, and recovery rates for those on gold standards out of the late Great Depression were actually worse than folks on what fiat, which is a term of art, currencies. So no, I'm not in favor of your ideas there. There we diverge, but on the second one, I'm all for you.
Do you have a total figure of the losses from the entire credit bubble worldwide or in the US? And do you have a time projection on when the penny drops?
The estimates vary by the IMF and others, but in the order of magnitude of $4.5 trillion.
But what about there's been apparently, at least on paper, there's $9 trillion that's gone out of the stock market. There's $5.5 trillion that's gone out of housing. I mean, aren't there?
Yeah, those are not included.
They're not included
as wealth losses. This is how much to fix the losses in basically the financial institutions. I agree to you. The total impact economically is much larger than the $4.5 trillion. Not that $4.5 trillion isn't a lot.
Right. Well, you got to measure that against what, 11 trillion GDP, or what's the economy?
The U.S. economy?
Yeah.
No, I think it's more like 14, but
14,
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, well, what's left to drop is a whole host of things that we were talking about. Hungary, virtually all mortgages are denominated in, I think, euros, but people are earning in the in the local currency, which I think is the florent, something like that. And of course, the local currency has lost value massively relative to the euro. So, you know, they're just going to be default after just a nationwide default. Iceland has 70% of its commercial loans denominated in a foreign currency.
They were the British depositors, right? That went into their banks.
British depositors went heavily, but other nations did as well. I mean, it's not what you asked about, but it exposed huge regulatory holes in the European context as well. So part of the answer is we don't know because no one has been effectively examining banks in places like Hungary and Iceland. To give you stress tests, people mention, Iceland did a stress test of its three big banks in August of '08, said they passed with flying colors. The entire nation collapsed in October. AIG did stress tests and said the worst conceivable loss was $900 million. Hey, what's 200 billion among friends? Fannie and Freddie were required by statute to do stress tests, much tougher stress tests than Treasury recently used, announced in August of 2008 that the worst conceivable losses were $5 billion. Close, no cigar. You know, the question is whether it's going to be 200 billion or 400 billion for them. So these stress tests, all this really fancy modeling where we literally took rocket scientists, physicists, to do the modeling, the financial modeling, it purports to be accurate to the 7th decimal point to the right, you know, the 7th figure to the right of the decimal point. The only thing is it's wrong to the 7th figure to the left.
Gentleman here, right next to you. Back there. There he is, on your right.
I have a question regarding the role of the Federal Reserve in the economic crisis. The question is, do you agree with the Austrian school economists that the Federal Reserve has caused this recession and virtually every recession since 1913, its inception, by manipulating interest rates and the money supply? That's basically it.
Okay.
No.
Why is that?
I don't know. Well, it depends on what you mean by manipulation, but whether or not people were on gold standards, they managed to have crises long before any central banks existed. And indeed, the gold standard makes it very difficult to recover from crises.
Sir,
Yeah,
can you wait for the microphone, please?
No, we should order in, yes, we don't need,
Sir, can you
no,
please
we
wait
don't
for
need
the microphone?
conspiracy theories about the Fed. Of course. I know. But can you address this idea that there's some sort of mystical lodge-like cabal that sits in a room, 6 white men running the world, making stupid decisions that bring us all down? I mean, it's true that this has happened, but did it actually happen in that room?
There is a real problem with what we call theoclassical economics, in which it has become pretty much a religion, and it can't be falsified. So I read the quote, I gave the quotation earlier about a rule against fraud was not necessary or even particularly important. That was by the deans of the law and economic movements in the United States of America. A literal dean, Dean Fischel of the University of Chicago, he's now moved on, and Judge Easterbrook. They wrote that after they had tried to apply their theories in the real world, in the savings and loan crisis. And in the real world, they had praised Lincoln Savings, Fischel had, as the best possible savings and loan in America. So after getting it completely wrong, they write the book that becomes the treatise on all of this that affects policy, that has been falsified entirely by events, and they don't even mention that they tried applying their theories in the real world and they got a 3,000 position error. In other words, they took the worst S&L in America of 3,000 and said it was the best S&L in America. You can't get it more wrong, and for that they made him dean of the University of Chicago Law School.
So, okay.
So
well,
it's not a cabal, it's not a room, but it is shared beliefs that say you don't need to regulate anything, that private market discipline will ensure that everything will go fine.
that's what Greenspan's excuse is.
And that was what Greenspan, now he's done a mea culpa at least.
Well, he said, I'm surprised that it didn't work.
He said, yeah, he said he was shocked. He thought that it was shocking that people, that would, you'd actually have